Park and Recreation Board meeting for February the 26th. Rebecca, would you please take the roll?
Davis.
Here.
Vogel.
Here.
Facto.
Here.
Bogus.
Here.
Massive.
Here.
Potter.
Here.
Thompson.
Here.
Ritter.
Here.
Lawler.
Here.
Domain.
Here.
Lohmeyer.
Here.
Pugh.
Here.
Fancher.
Here.
We have a quorum. Okay, let's look at the agenda, see if we need to make any adjustments on the agenda or any amendments.
For acceptance of the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Passes. Let's go review the minutes of the January 22nd meeting. I think that was in your packet.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are passed. Let's go right to board action, and we'll start off with the aquatic centers, wading pools, and we have this once again.
Yes, so no changes from your last board meeting. This is per your code. You have 2 meetings to accept the policy recommendation for the start of the pool season. We'll entertain any questions you have. Great day to be thinking about pools, too. So,
Be a fun day to go outside and be squirted with the hose.
yes.
Okay, any questions on the pools? Seeing none? Move. Motion? Move. Motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay, no opposition. Here's one. Part B is the skate park rules. Skate park rules. And everyone should have received a letter from Ann, our attorney, on this, and you get an overview. And we also are very fortunate tonight that we have the police chief here to discuss any questions we will have. So let's open this up, and Ben, you can start. We'll open this up and get this clarified tonight, and hopefully we can all come to agreement on this.
Well, first, I also want to point out Norm, if I'm going to say his name the right way, Sturzenbach. Did I get that right? Good. Norm's been working with us behind the scenes, been great to work with. He's representing the skate park community. He's been to a lot of meetings with Matt Kalsovich and his team and myself. He's got some questions he might want to ask the board or comments he might want to share with the boards. But from your last meeting, there's been no changes. You see why from the legal opinion that's not a public document. So our recommendations are still the same. We went back and we researched this. Again, we feel like we have a nice set of rules, but at the end of the day, I would remind you, the most important thing to realize is we have never had a skate park of this size, of this demand in our community. My recommendation is still the same, is let's work through 1 year, let's get back together as a board and evaluate a year after the facility's been open for a year and talk about changes we'd like to see as a board. From there, I think it'd be great to have Norm address, if he wanted to address.
Norm, why don't you come up, and do you have any concerns? Now'd be the time to do it. Come on up.
Are we good? Okay.
Okay. Chief, I'd like to have you come up, if you would, and give an overview of the police department perspective on the rules. You're representing as a chief of police tonight and not a skate park skater, correct?
Correct. I'd have crutches and probably a neck brace on if I was representing as a skate park skater.
Don't say that.
Dana Wingert, Chief of Police. I just want to say that Director Page and his team have put a lot of effort into developing these rules, and with that have sought a lot of input both from the community and the other city departments. Obviously, it'll have an impact on us. We'll be required to provide the police protection, any emergency response at that facility, working through a final plan with the fire department to make that as efficient as possible. But we're in favor of the rules as written, particularly the park hours. That'll provide us some consistency in the officers and the resources we have deployed in the late evening and into the nighttime hours. So with our input that was asked for by Director Page and his staff, we're in favor of the rules as written.
Questions for Chief? Chief, I'd like to ask you, when we have hours in the parks, set hours of closure or whatever, and say people are still in those, are those citizen complaint driven to remove people, or the police arbitrarily drive through, or how does that work? Because I know that sometimes kids or people or even parents, even though it's past park hours, some of them are sitting there, and not creating a disturbance. If it's a disturbance oriented, obviously that's fairly easy, but
Yeah, it's a little bit of both, actually. Obviously, a citizen complaint's going to generate a response from the police, but as the Parks Department goes through and does, new park facilities, amenities, improvements to the parks, they take into consideration the line of sight for police officers who may be on an adjoining street, where we can look through and see into the park, sometimes see all the way through the park. I know the sculpture park downtown was designed with that in mind. We can see all the way through it from Locust or Grand. So it could be complaint generated. The beat officers also have that as an area of responsibility for every park in their beat to check those. And then obviously we have some off-duty officers working at a couple of the parks.
questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Discussion?
Yep.
Motion and discussion. Any other conversation regarding this?
I'm just curious, we've got this other handout, this would be the rules that will be posted?
That would be an
Is that
example of a sign,
right? Okay.
Yep.
So there's a bunch of rules that aren't, on here, but that's just.
because the sign would be,
There's
really
also a
big if we
space.
listed all the signs. So what we do generally for just all parks, and maybe if I'm getting too far off what you're asking, stop me, but there's so many rules that we could list. So we try to focus on the ones that we think are be the most questioned or asked about.
Okay. Okay. One other thing, now, these rules differ just slightly from, I think, the rules at the other skate parks, so are they gonna be conformed to this one then?
Well, the other skate park does allow one difference, which is the biking piece. The skate park's not designed at this point, according to California Skate Parks, designed for biking at this point. Not that that couldn't change down the road. So that's the only real difference.
Okay, but the recommended helmet is still the same, and there's no reference to, I don't think, to the risk, some of the risks, or the risks
Well-
set out the same in the other?
Bill, could you talk
Well,
that
yes.
a little bit? Talk up a little bit.
His question, I'll just summarize really quickly if I got it right, was are they consistent with the other skate park rules at 4 Mile Community Skate Park? Matt, is that correct? They are consistent, or?
Yeah.
Chair Davis, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Matt Kalsevich. To respond directly to that, yes, there'll be a unification, a crossover of some of the major points that we're trying to emphasize in terms of our new existence on oversight of multiple skating facilities. But to Ben's point, there are some functional differences based on the design of that facility versus the design of this facility, which will allow a little flexibility between the two, and we'll administer things appropriately. One of the advantages there at that site and some of the unique opportunities we'll allow to still take place there is its connection or direct proximity to the 4 Mile Community Recreation Center and some of the staff presence that'll be there to help regulate some of those aspects of that park over the Lurtzen facility.
Okay.
And what we'll do too is, I talked about last meeting, we're working on Chapter 74, so we'll add that to our list to make sure we'll cross-reference those to see where changes need to be made. But late to midsummer, we hope to bring you the big list of Chapter 74 modifications, which I know you're just waiting on, or you're excited to hear about, so stay tuned.
I see that the skateboarding park is open from 6 to 10. What's to keep them from using it at other times? I mean, during the day?
That's a good point. It'll be self-regulated, and at this point, there's nothing that stops them from using, just like any other park, complaint basis. We hope that it governs itself to the point it's not a problem. But if it is, again, that's what I'm asking you is, in a year from now, we can come back and tell you if there's problems such as that or not that.
Now's the time to, during discussion, now's the time to speak up. Okay, we have a motion on the floor to accept them as, Kim, you want to restate your motion, accept as written?
Yes, motion to accept the rules as written.
Second.
Second? All those in favor? Or let's call the roll.
Davis,
Yes.
Vogel,
Yes.
Pacto,
Yes.
Saugus,
Yes.
Nassif,
Yes.
Potter,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Woodard,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Romaine,
Yes.
Meyer,
Yes.
Hugh,
Yes.
Banter.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Last time I'll put Norm on the spot. Norm, we have a captive audience. You're working on a really nice program for 4 Mile Skate Park. Do you want to say anything about that at the podium real quick to publicize that? I know details aren't all in them, but you want to talk about what you're working on?
Well, it's not public yet.
Okay, so it is now. So,
Not quite a rollout behind
yes, yes.
Yeah.
We don't let anyone out of here without talking.
Apparently so. Norm Sturzenbach. I'm with an organization that we're going to be rolling out within the next month called Skate DSM, designed to, among other things, help do programming for the new Lauridsen Skate Park, but beyond that, help advocate for skaters in the community and tell the story of skateboarding and why it's a good activity for young and old alike. So, Matt, we'll get him out there, and we'll get the chief out there too, I'm sure at some point. But at 4 Mile, as a way for us to sort of start this organization and to build what we hope is a good partnership with the city, with the Parks Department, with the community, we're going to be doing 2 events on May 4th. First in the morning will be a clinic. With the excitement around the new skate park, we're going to bring in some experienced skaters and pair them with younger skaters or new skaters to teach them some fundamentals and safety and how to ride a skateboard. And then in the afternoon, we're going to do a competition, well, 2 competitions actually, for various skill sets. One is just a standard competition where you have like a 40 seconds to run on the park, and then the other is a best trick competition. So we're looking forward to that as a way to sort of start to build enthusiasm for the park, that hopefully the snow will melt and we can really start, digging. But so that's
Questions?
all I had for my unprepared remarks. So,
You're welcome.
Thank you for your input. Thank you very much. With that being passed, I want to thank our board for the questions that they brought up, the review that we did. I thought that we had a lot of effort and review, and Ann, I want to especially thank you. You did a lot of research on this, and your mail out to everyone in advance was excellent and answered a lot of questions. So thank you, board. Thank you a lot. Going to Part C, which is Trails and Greenway Committee appointment, we have Sarah Lohmeyer and Jim Ballard that will be moving to Trails and Greenways, replacing Heather Anderson and Vicky Facto, who has been appointed to the Urban Conservation Committee. So discussion on Trails and Greenways appointment.
We have a communication in front of you for 2 citizens. If any of the members from this park board that have served on the subcommittee of Trails Greenway would like to say anything, I think they're 2 excellent suggestions here.
Absolutely. Lauren Lone was with Polk County Conservation for years and years, and he was actually staff representative on this committee for us for a number of years and has a lot of excellent input. Also a cyclist. Walter is a avid cyclist, and he could tell you more about cycling in this city than almost anybody I know. So I think they're both great advocates for the committee. And I would make a motion to approve their appointment.
I'll second that.
Motion accepted. Second. We'll do the roll on this. Usually this is by verbal, but by voice vote, but we can do a roll call on this.
Davis?
Yes.
Ogle?
Yes.
Facto?
Yes.
Saugus?
Yes.
Nassif?
Yes.
Potter?
Yes.
Thompson?
yes.
Woodard?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Delaine?
Yes.
Lohmeyer?
Yes.
Hugh?
Yes.
Banter?
Yes.
Sarah, Jim, thank you for your 12-year commitment. We appreciate it. Okay, moving to receive and file.
Well, our representatives from our golf contractor here, Ned and Rocky. I think either one of you want to come up and address the board and maybe give a summary of the golf report for 2018. Hopefully you've had a chance to look at the revenue and rounds, and Ned will give you a little highlight.
Good afternoon, Chairman Davis and members of the Park Board. Ned Chido with C Corporation. We manage your municipal golf courses. You have a report given to you. It's pretty self-explanatory. I'm not going to go into repeating it basically, but just basically say that it was a very difficult year this last year, all weather related. We did have experience a down year. It's the first time in a long time. Probably as difficult a year as I can remember, and I've been around for a number of years. But it was all weather related, so we're hoping at least that the weather can't stay lousy forever, but yeah, I'm beginning to wonder We hope to get off to a decent start this year, as last year we really got off to a lousy start. I don't care if it's a late start, just so that when it does turn, it's halfway decent consistently going forward. And that's the key for us, being weather-driven. The golf courses, I think, were in excellent shape. People's reaction and feedback to us was positive. I think the things that we're doing are getting good response, and we're continuing to move forward with those numerous projects, particularly cleaning up the woods at Waveland, and then this winter we did some work at Blank as well, and all those things have moved along nicely, and we hope to continue doing those kinds of things going forward. We're hoping that our capital improvement needs, for instance, the maintenance building roof, move forward. That particular issue is out to bid and should be coming back shortly. And once we get that roof fixed, that will be a great relief, whereas we're in a real difficult position right now with the deteriorated roof on our maintenance building. But we hope to get that project completed and then move on to some other less significant improvements, but keep moving forward and keeping our golf courses in top shape as best we can. So basically that's all I've got, but I'd be happy to answer any questions about the report or any other aspect of the golf business that you would be interested in talking about.
Questions for Ned? Bill, you and Stephen are golf committee, and Sam, you're just going off, so any questions, any review?
Ned, what about the universal badge?
Oh, good question. We instituted a universal season badge last year. That means that the season badge, if you bought it, was good for not only the 3 city courses, but also Jester Park. That was extremely well received by the public. I think we sold about 25% more season tickets this last year than we did the year before. And then after dispersal of the money prorated on rounds played at each facility, I think the city still came out ahead. And I think it's been a good innovation, and I think it'll continue to be popular and continue to grow. Hopefully not too much, because we don't need any more discounted golf, but it is popular, and so we like that aspect of it.
I've always wondered about the ages of, say, let me pick an age, 26 and under. What's the, is there a large population of golfers at age 26 and under, or where's the breakdown of age?
According to national demographic studies, and we've tried to apply those to what we have here on our database, but if you look at it, almost 50% of our players now are 55 and over, and a minority of the players, probably less than 25%, are under 40. And I don't know if that's going to change any, and I don't know if we can do anything specifically to change that. I think it has to do with lifestyle more than anything. I think young parents today are more into kids' activities than they were when I was a young parent. They haul their kids to Little League, they haul their kids to swimming, tennis, dance, whatever, and they're really involved in doing that, and it eats up a lot of their time. I can't argue with that aspect of family life, but I think it does impact their ability to have time and money, for that matter, to spend recreating in golf. I don't see that changing in the near run, so I think we have to adapt our business model to accommodate that demographic change, and that's what we are attempting to do. That was one of the aspects of the universal badge that we liked, because it gives seniors encouragement to play even a little more because they have a variety of places to play. And I think that's the way we need to approach it. Continually give the golfer a fresh venue, a different experience available, so that they don't get bored with a particular experience, and that way they keep up their level of interest and hopefully our level of participation in revenues. But your point is well taken. Our demographic profile has changed over the years, and I think we're going to be stuck with it for a while.
Thank you.
I'll just add that, despite the number of poor weather days, the net result of the year's numbers were just slightly below last year's. So kudos to Ned and C Corp
Well,
for
thank
really
you.
maintaining a pretty good year, considering the difficulties and setbacks.
Thank you. I mean, what that doesn't show you is we really got hurt on the bottom line because we were staffing for a lot of days, extra days that we didn't have business, and our maintenance costs per se have continued to rise a little bit over time. So we got hurt on the bottom line more significantly than we did on the top line. But I'm optimistic. I think that'll turn around if we get a decent weather year. I don't think last year was anywhere near the top of the bell curve. I think it was an outlier, and hopefully we don't have another one.
I'd just add to Bill's comment as you think about how important and how much work we put into looking at fees every year, and they're always just modest by design. And you could argue that those modest fees didn't hurt that bottom line. It's truly the revenue, because you look at the numbers of the rounds versus percentages were off. So I think you made good policy as a board last year too on your fee adjustments.
Anything else for Ned? Ned, your assistant, you want to introduce?
Rocky Sposato, I think everybody probably knows him, but if they don't, he's basically our general manager. Headquarters out of Waveland, but oversees several of our operations and kind of is my right-hand man as far as the city courses are concerned. Jeffrey is focusing on the Jester Park operation, which, if you've been out there, is a bit of a haul, so it's hard for him to do more than that, considering it takes a half hour, 45 minutes to get there. But I'm sure you've had interaction with Rocky, particularly at the Parks Recreation fundraising event we have every year. And he does an excellent job for us.
Anything else? Getting ready to open? You open in about 2 weeks, don't you?
George would be happy to take your greens fee today, and you can play tomorrow.
Anything else for Ned? Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Okay, a motion to receive and file?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Next on the agenda is Chesterfield Park improvements.
Jenny Richmond from our planning division is going to give you an overview of where we're at and where we'd like to go with Chesterfield Park.
Good evening, Chair Davis and members of the Park and Recreation Board. I'm Jenny Richmond, as Ben said, Planning and Development Administrator, and here to talk with you about Chesterfield Park. Chesterfield is located, there we go, just east of the Parks Department offices at 2719 Scott Avenue. So if you head just east down to MLK, about 12 blocks, you'll see it just on the north side of MLK at about 27th. You may recall we also visited the site during the last park tour. Chesterfield is a perfectly sized neighborhood park at 5.8 acres, but it needs a lot of attention to bring it back to life and support it being the heart of the Chesterfield neighborhood. As you'll recall, this is one of our big goals for Live DSM, is to make these types of parks the heart of the neighborhoods. It needs to support the types of community building activities needed and wanted by the neighbors to be of a quality that we are all proud of. I would love to be excited to tell everyone I know that they should visit Chesterfield Park and that they'd enjoy their time there, have fun, and they would want to go back again. That's why we absolutely want also for those who live in proximity to the park to have it really be the heart of their neighborhood. So where do we start? The discovery phase. That sounds pretty fun, right? So the first thing we do is look at what we've got existing, since it's a park that we already have. So what's great, what's worth keeping, and what's special? We look for views and edges and entries and things that will come together to make it a really special place. At Chesterfield, we're starting with the wonderful mature trees that are along the west edge that line the existing sidewalk. The terrain is very flat at Chesterfield. There's not really any natural resources to speak of. It's basically kind of a mowed, flat, open park, but that's really valuable to us. We just don't have a lot of flat spaces. So right now, the park is very much dominated by this large open flat field that's on the north side. It's currently lighted, but the lights have definitely reached the end of their lifetime, and it's very heavily used. So we definitely want to respect the fact that both neighbors and others come here to use the field. We also have existing parking on the site, which is definitely a benefit, but the way that it's laid out right now, it takes up a lot of space. There's a really long entry drive, and you park in the southeast corner, and then the corner is kind of isolated from the rest of the park. So we're definitely looking at that. There is an existing restroom on the site, and we're currently in talks with the same architecture firm who helped us out with designing the restrooms that are going into Sheridan and Tower parks, and that will start popping up in some other sites too. We're hoping that we can salvage this one, give it a little bit of a facelift, and it'll fit in with the rest of the park. The playground is in very serious need of upgrades. From location to surfacing to equipment, it all needs to be improved. The wading pool is in a similar condition and will be replaced with a spray ground that can be open without staffing and open during that longer duration that the rest of our spray grounds are open. The basketball court is also in similar condition, and it's undersized. So we're looking at replacing it with a full-size regulation court and using our same high quality standards and backboards and hoops that you see popping up across the system. So after looking at what's existing on the site, then we start looking at some of the parks that might be nearby. And Chesterfield definitely has some neighbors. So we want to look closely at those to make sure that we're not repeating any of the exact same play equipment and other things, but we definitely want them all to have their own distinct identity. We also dive into the history, and Chesterfield definitely has a long history. We can draw a lot of inspiration from this in some cases. So Chesterfield, these are maps from the 1870s or 1870 and 1910, and this I found really interesting. So in 1843, Raccoon Forks Post Office opens really close to what's now the park site. It was the oldest non-military settled part of the county. In 1882, the village of Chesterfield was incorporated into the town of Gilbert, and I had never heard of Gilbert before. But very quickly after that, in 1890, Gilbert was annexed into Des Moines, so Gilbert was pretty short-lived. But this area, even as early as the 1870s, was a major commercial area for young Des Moines. Starch factories, brickyards, packing houses, rail yards, and even distilleries. So this is an aerial from about 1930. In 1929, the city of Des Moines acquired land for Chesterfield Park, and throughout the 1950s and through the 70s, continued to acquire adjacent land to increase the size. In 1958, a swimming pool was proposed here but was never built. This aerial is from about 1970. You can see there the recreation center building pops up. And this is also the time, right around the mid-1970s, when the neighborhood received city water for the very first time. 1976, the existing wading pool was constructed, and on June 11th, 1979, the Naomi Wright Daycare Center was dedicated. So this, here we're getting a little bit closer to current times. 1990, this aerial is from. In 2004, the Chesterfield Neighborhood Association became inactive, and it's never become active again. So we're hoping that the park can play a role in bringing the community back together again, and hopefully spur some of that community building. And through 2005 to present, you'll see a lot of infill housing. So there are new residents coming into the area, so that is really exciting. We also take a really close look at demographics, both existing demographics and what we anticipate in the near future. You'll see in front of you as a handout, the Trust for Public Land provides Park Serve reports for all of our public spaces. And when you take a glimpse at these, you can see that within a 10-minute walk, the range of ages, income levels, and backgrounds. You'll see that Chesterfield has a great diversity from many standpoints, so that is definitely exciting. We absolutely want to understand more about those specific needs. That brings us right into public outreach. So on February 7th at 6 o'clock over at the Chesterfield Community Room by the greenhouses, we held our public meeting, and we had attendees from 3 different generations, from a great-grandmother to a mom and her son, 17-year-old son. So we had a really wide range of great input. I'd also like to thank Councilmember Coleman. He came and he stayed for the entire evening, also gave really great input, asked a lot of good questions, definitely invested in this area too. At the meeting, we talked about some preferences. Chesterfield Park is basically a clean slate besides the existing trees. We really have a lot of open space to work with and want to make the most of it and do the right thing for the neighborhood. So we showed them a wide range of different images of existing projects in different areas, not necessarily from Des Moines, just to give them some ideas and start some creative juices flowing. So the feedback we got that evening is that they do prefer a little bit more traditional playground, which you see in the top. They really also liked the spray grounds that we showed for a lot of different reasons. And one of the things that the neighbors who attended the meeting wanted people to take away from coming to Chesterfield Park and Chesterfield neighborhood is that they're a very, very hard-working neighborhood. They take pride in what they do and the industrial past and present that they have. And so they really latched on to the spray ground options that you see where there's some interactive components that kind of pass on that industrious activity to kiddos and adults even who might play in the water. They really did like the colorful aspect of it too, to try to brighten the spaces and give them some life. We looked at different shelters. They definitely drifted more towards a traditional shelter too, with a little bit of embellishment, but did not care for the bottom left, the contemporary shed roof. Basketball was a definite keeper. The 17-year-old said that he loves going there with his friends, and when I pop over to take a look at the park periodically, it's definitely activity that I see happening even with the small court that's there right now. They were excited to see the mural that went into Redhead Park. That's also pretty close by and definitely open if an opportunity like that comes up in the future. Also, the idea of sand volleyball came up, and that started me thinking that, if basketball could go in, are there some other options that could help bring some identity to Chesterfield? So started looking at some things that we currently don't have in our system right now. And these ping pong tables are starting to pop up in other cities, and they're really fun, and you can do custom graphics on them. Ping pong balls and paddles, not a huge investment, so I think it might be a really good fit for this site. Then I started thinking about, gosh, if ping pong works, maybe there's some other fun yard games that might be able to be incorporated some way so that people could play them on a large scale. So these are just some inspiration photos right now, not necessarily anything that's set in stone, but just some fun ideas. Sidewalk chalk, just some sporadic art created by people visiting. So all of these are fun ideas under review right now. The last thing that we looked at the public meeting were some of the layouts that might be possible because we do have such a wide open space. We looked at sort of a traditional symmetrical layout. We looked at separating uses with the diagonal field, and we landed on the next one, which does a total flip-flop with the north and the south. So currently the field is on the north side. And with MLK coming through and being widened, feel like flip-flopping them and making the field go on the south side might give a good buffer and bring those neighborhood improvements more into the heart of the neighborhood and make it a little bit easier for people to access and not have necessarily the noise of MLK right there. So that was definitely their preference. This is our working concept right now, and we're excited about this, and I'm going to continue to refine it a little bit more, but you'll see in the top right corner, we've preserved some parking on site. There's still plenty of street parking also if there's ever any big events, but we have about 15 spaces that we're shooting for right now. I'm going to try to keep the existing restroom, which is that small orange building just on the south side of the parking. Basketball appears up in that area also. Give that a little bit of shade with a few trees around it. And then that area with kind of the swirls, that's where we'd like to still keep looking to see what sort of games and high activity area we can bring into that. So we're calling it the game area right now. The playground and spray ground, we're going to try to integrate those a little bit. We'll see how that fleshes out, but the feedback we got from the neighbors was really, really helpful. So that kind of light turquoise area is the playground, spray ground area. Keeping a large open recreation field, we can put some soccer goals out there and move them around, and people can just use it as flexible space too for frisbee or whatever they'd like to do. And then we'll be adding in an open air shelter. This was something that the community felt like they really, really needed. They said that all of the cultures that are in the neighborhood now come together for all the different holidays, and they cook for each other, they garden together, and having a space where they could come together more formally like this with some grills and picnic tables was very high on their priority list. So this shelter currently, this size would hold about 6 picnic tables, a loop path that takes advantage of the sidewalks that are along the street also is set up, and then giving it distinct entries so that when people go by, they really notice like there's something really special going on here. So that is a quick overview of the process we've been through so far and where we're at with the concept. Our next steps are to continue refining this and start working with engineering to put together some construction documents and get it out to bid. And we're really hoping that it would be open sometime summer next year. That's what we're shooting for. I'd also like to send out a couple of very sincere thank yous. The project would not be possible without some grant funding, and Friends of Des Moines Parks was gracious enough to donate $50,000 towards the playground improvements, which will go a long way for us. And then they also helped us with a grant application to Union Pacific Railroad, who contributed $25,000 towards the basketball court. So we thank you so much. There's definitely still opportunities. If anybody has any ideas, we'd definitely love to entertain them. But we're moving forward and very excited about where it's headed. I'd love to take any questions at this point too.
This is projected to be open with the spray ground by 2020, December?
Right, we're not sure of the exact opening date, but right now our goal is the summer of 2020. Yep.
For this summer, is the wading pool still functional?
Yes.
Okay,
yep,
so
that's
this
the plan.
summer the kids will have that wading pool.
Yes, right, yep.
And then are the athletic lights being taken out?
They are. They have absolutely reached the end of their life. Some of them need to be repaired, and it's so expensive, and they're on old wooden poles. I worked with the Recreation Division to make sure that the activities that currently take place under those lights would have a new home, so that has all been taken care of, and there's definitely space for them in other places. And it being a neighborhood park, the lights generally aren't something that you really see in a neighborhood park at that scale. You know, we'll have some lighting sometimes, but not big field lights.
Those lights left over from softball days. I remember playing softball at Chesterfield.
Yeah, no, that was, yeah, that's what they were, the old
Okay.
softball lights.
We've used that as a flex space for the recreation division for the adult sports, not just softball, but flag football, but our recreation division's found a good place for a little higher end quality sports field for these folks to play at. Our survey data tells us too, when we go there, it's not their favorite thing because they've been spoiled with, if you've been on the tour, the adult softball complex or county soccer to play at. So kind of almost counterproductive of sending them there than sending them to a nice sports complex these days.
Pickleball. What about a pickleball court?
Oh, that's a good idea. I'm going to write that one down. Thank you.
You're very welcome. That's free.
Jenny, I would have to say that they must love seeing you come in the door at those neighborhood meetings. You're so positive and
thanks.
full of ideas.
Thank you.
Wonderful job.
It's truly, that's one of the highlights of this work, is being able to work with the neighborhoods, with the residents, and making sure that really our neighborhood parks are the heart of their community. That's our goal. So thanks, Cindy.
Anything else? Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
One question, the population is 748. Is that a low population or a high population for park usage?
Yeah, it definitely varies across the system, and I would say it's not necessarily low and it's not necessarily high. It's definitely enough to be a solid neighborhood, and definitely in need of a high quality neighborhood park. Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Would you like a motion to receive
I
and
would love
file?
a motion to receive and file.
I will make a motion to receive and file the Chesterfield Park improvements.
I will second that motion.
Okay. With that being said, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. You're excited. You can see how we're excited to get this project started. It's been in the queue for a few years as we have tried to secure additional funding outside of the city funding, and this neighborhood really needs this type of improvement. They don't have anybody speaking for them, and we could tell when we went out that night, although it wasn't a huge attendance, the folks who are a little bit, maybe, I guess, concerned about maybe going to a city meeting sometime. So it was nice that they'll take us back and find us. We did send mailings out to the addresses above and beyond our normal process to make sure everybody knew that we were doing this. So I feel good about our public interaction at this point.
How did Union Pacific get involved? Is it because of its proximity to the tracks, or?
No, there's a grant. So we dealt with Union Pacific at the county sports parks. And it started off with more of a negative situation there when we had a little issue with them, and then they told us about a community giving program they have, and so that they get a lack of applicants sometimes for their grant program, and so we applied and we were fortunate enough to get a grant. Good question.
Okay.
Been answering my question.
Okay.
Next is by the way, how many people logged on and saw on your computer and saw the 2018 annual report? Well, I logged on. Usually he gives us a nice booklet.
It's by design. Here you go.
Oh, well, looky here. What a lead in. All right.
Jen Fletcher from our team. She's our quarterback, as you already all know, on this project, but it's one of our favorite things for the year. You'll see, and you'll see why.
Chair Davis, members of the Park and Recreation Board, I'm very pleased and very happy to present to you the 2018 report to the community. As Ben mentioned, it's my role to quarterback it per se, but it's really the story of all of the work that our entire team has done over the years. So without further ado, I will hand you each your own copy.
Do we have interns? There's no interns?
We're going to get you.
This will be available on the website tomorrow. You've already received your copy. It'll be on our social media, so I encourage anybody to share it with anyone they know, all that, because it really is, it's our story for the year. So, any questions?
Who receives a copy of these, Jen?
The printed copy, we don't print a whole lot of actual printed copy just because of the expense. So your board, our commissions, our volunteers, city council, city manager, we send it to the media so they can share it. It's on our, like I mentioned, it's on our social media page. So anybody who wants it.
These are very nice, and you've done this ever since you've been the director. These are very nice.
We're very proud of this. It goes to the Polk County supervisors as well because they've been great partners. So anybody that's been a partner in the last year gets a copy. A lot of those copies go on the electronic format, digital. And I would say we're approaching probably 1,000 different distribution points along the way because there's so many different boards we work with. The zoo board gets a copy. The Botanical Gardens board gets a copy. Catch Des Moines gets copies. So we try to make sure everybody knows about all the good things we've worked on as a team, as our board, as our council, and this city. We always try to tell the story in a way of, here's the value of what Parks and Recreation brings to you. Because that's the message that's the hardest to embrace. It's not always easy to put your finger on what is the Parks and Recreation bringing to me personally.
All right, thank you.
Oh, the neighborhood association's good.
Question? Do we have any questions, Jen? Are we done with that?
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll have a motion to receive and file the 2018. Kim, we're going to have a motion to receive and file.
I'll move.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes.
We got Matt Kalsvich here to talk to you about the Mayor's Annual Ride and Run.
Chair Davis, members of the Park and Recreation Board, Matt Kalsvich, Recreation Manager. Thank you for this opportunity, as Ben mentioned, to share information with you about the Mayor's Annual Ride and Run. This year's event will be held on Saturday, April 20th, and this is the 32nd annual event. Pretty amazing to be able to say that about anything we offer here, so certainly we take a lot of pride in this event. One of the other things we're excited to highlight tonight is our new location for start and finish at Principal Park. As you can see from the map there, indicated the Cub Club, somewhat on the south end of the facility, north end of the facility, excuse me, will actually be using quite a bit of space there. One of the advantages of this facility is the parking, which has been a little tight in some of the other locations we've been in the last few years, but we'll be using their main office, some of the concourse, and several other areas to really fan out and hopefully make it a more comfortable and enjoyable experience for participants. As you know, the MAR event is a fundraiser, and our event proceeds have gone to trail projects over the last few years, so we certainly wanted to highlight this year's project that would be the focus, and that is the Des Moines River Trail Phase 2. Some of you have heard about this project, know about this, so certainly happy to have it be part of what we're doing with MAR. Construction in 2019 and 2020, a 2.6 mile stretch of trail. The trailhead near James W. County Soccer Park, this map, which I know is somewhat small, you can make out the soccer park facility toward the top, and the blue line essentially represents the trail that will be going in. Ben?
Just real quickly, just for give you an update, last night at the city council meeting, this was ordered for construction. That means we're out looking for bids right now for the next few weeks, so that will come in. Wish us good luck for good bids, but we have a record total of grant funds in this particular project. $1.65 million of that 2.5 will be grant dollars. Impressive.
Certainly a very exciting stretch to include as part of our trail inventory. Talk about the specifics of the event first with the run that's scheduled to start on that date at 9 a.m. It's a 5K, as we've done in the past, 3.1 miles. Turnaround this year will be at Grays Lake. And one of the unique aspects of being at Principal Park is we'll actually have our finish line for the run inside the park itself. Registration for the run is $35 and $50 the day of, and it's only $5 to add on the ride, so we certainly encourage people to do both activities. Here's a map of our projected route. We start on the southwest corner of the northwest corner, I should say, of the, no, my directions are all wrong. Southwest corner of the property, Principal Park, head down over the 5th Street Bridge, and as I mentioned, that turnaround at Grays Lake before we come back that same stretch and again finish inside the facility. So a fun route that we think people will really enjoy. Next we have the ride. Starting at 10 a.m., so approximately right at the conclusion of the run. This year's route is 22 miles, and it's reverse or opposite direction that we've done the last few years, and this isn't unprecedented. We've gone both ways around the trail system, but in this case we're going counterclockwise. We have 3 official ride stops that you can see listed there. And again, the ride is a $35 entry fee, $50 the day of, and again, just an additional $5 to add on the run. So one event or to add on the other is the same fee. And you can see our map, as I mentioned, we'll actually be going counterclockwise, opposite of what we've done the last few years. You can see the purple portion, our trail, and then the red is paved or street part of the course. I want to take this opportunity to recognize and thank some of our event sponsors. First and foremost, the Iowa Cubs, as I mentioned, our connection this year to Principal Park and some of the other logistical support that they're offering us. In the past few years, those of you who've done this event or seen this event in action, we've been at City Hall, we've been here at the Municipal Services Center. So excited for this new potential opportunity with the Iowa Cubs. Also to the Friends of Des Moines Parks, who made a generous contribution to the event and to our logistics and provision of amenities to the riders and runners. And then Bike World, who's been another longtime sponsor. Obviously, they're a tremendous advocate of trail use and biking in the community, so certainly happy to have them connected to this event again this year, and they're run with us over the last several years. I mentioned our official ride stops, and we have 3 this year. First is Confluence, and they've been with us in the past, so we certainly appreciate them being part of the project again. New this year is Triangle Tap, who's kind of in the middle portion of the route. And then again, the Iowa Cubs, who were with us last year as a ride stop, will have their setup again at Principal Park, even more specific to this year's event being our start and end location of the event. Another great aspect that will be part of things this year is our bike raffle. This is the bike that we gave away that last year. Our bike for this year is actually being constructed as we speak. Should be down in our lobby here sometime next week as a continued promotion of the event. But everybody who registers will automatically be entered for this raffle drawing for the bike. It's a fat tire bike, as you can see, which would definitely help during this time of year and the conditions that have been out on the road, but one you can enjoy year-round, certainly. So the easiest way to get connected, we'd have you direct people to the website, dmparks.org, where all the registration information can be found. But certainly if people have specific questions or want details about any unique or specific part of the event, please have them call and we'll get them connected with the right people in connection with facilitating the event. Thank you for the opportunity to share this information with you. I'd be happy to try and answer any questions you have at this time.
Questions? Thank you, Matt. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Very good.
We'll ask Rebecca to email you the presentation. We'd ask you to do one favor for us is on the next 2 presentations actually is help us recruit people to participate, and on the next one up with Callie and Julie is help recruit people to participate in Trash Bash. So if you don't mind circulating these around to people you might think are interested.
Good evening, Chair Davis and members of the Park and Recreation Board. Thanks for letting us brief you today on Earth Day Trash Bash. I'm Callie Courtright, Parks and Recreation Supervisor.
And Julie Hempel, Horticulture Inspector. Earth Day Trash Bash is Iowa's largest Earth Day event. It's a significant event for many individuals and corporations. It started over 14 years ago with a few committed individuals and has grown today into a partnership with our surrounding communities to create a more sustainable metro. Last year, more than 1,900 registered volunteers removed over 81,000 pounds of trash, recyclables, compostable materials, 34 pounds of cigarette butts, planted 280 trees, and recycled 3,400 grocery bags.
Helping on the planning committee in 2019 are the cities of West Des Moines, Clive, Pleasant Hill, Johnston, Urbandale, and new this year, Norwalk. We also have Polk County Conservation, Polk Soil and Water Conservation District, the West Side Chamber of Commerce, Iowa Natural Heritage Foundation, Ingersoll Business Committee, Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden, and Des Moines Waterworks.
Earth Day Trash Bash takes place over 2 days, Friday, April 19th for teams and Saturday, April 20th. It kicks off for the teams on Friday the 19th with a volunteer thank you bash at Coles Commons. Volunteers can go to their projects after that throughout the metro with an afternoon of volunteering. Captains can register for their teams starting March 8th through March 30th online at earthday.dmgov.org.
Individuals and families are free to join us and join in on the fun on Saturday, April 20th with our Cash In, Trash Out Creek cleanup over on Walnut Creek. It's starting out of Pal Joey's parking lot. Plus, there will be educational opportunities with our partners over at the Greater Des Moines Botanical Garden and free admission there, sponsored by Principal.
Again, registration opens March 8th at earthday.dmgov.org. As park board members, if you are interested in participating, please let Rebecca know and you can be part of the director's team. Thank you again, Chair Davis and members of the Park and Recreation Board for your continued support of Earth Day Trash Bash, Iowa's largest Earth Day volunteer event. Are there any questions for us?
I thought we had an email on ours where we were meeting at Woodland Cemetery at 12 o'clock. Okay?
So you stole my thunder, but I
I'm sorry.
That's all right. That's okay. I do these guys all the time. So our project this year is we try to move from ward to ward to ward. This year we're in Ward 1, and Josh Mandelbaum, I consulted with him. He had the idea, since he's already been working on the Woodland Cemetery monument projects, we would go there and we'd clean monuments. I think it's a great idea. So the city council and the Polk County supervisors are going to join us because they've helped fund that recently. So that'll be our project under good leadership from these two. The director's team sounds awful fancy, so we'll call it the mayor's team maybe. And we'll see how long we can get everybody to hang out for us, clean some stones.
Great.
Thank you.
So we do not have to register with Rebecca.
Yeah, because we want to try to get an idea of how many tools they have on site. So
okay.
Just send her an email if you're in that day.
And your t-shirt
and our t-shirt sizes,
and t-shirt
thank you.
sizes, please.
T-shirt sizes to Rebecca, and how long you think you could be there for, and we'll try to set up the day around that. Remember, we are at noon, so don't get confused. The rest of the teams start at 1, but the mayor's got a strict calendar that day where it's Earth Day, so he usually has a number of things he has to do across the city. So we're going to start at noon, even though everything else will say 1 o'clock. Don't get confused with that.
Thank you, guys. Nice job. Thank you. Okay, we'll proceed on with the reports of urban conservation and Andrea, Vicki.
Sure. We met I know we've had one meeting since November, but you have notes in your packet from November. We heard about the Des Moines River Trail and an update on Live DSM. I actually wasn't able to be at our last meeting, so I can't speak to our minutes from that meeting. We're meeting next in April, but we'll have more then. How about that? Vicki, do you want to add anything?
I have not been to a meeting yet, so hopefully I'm on the list to get the email though.
I'll make sure.
Yep.
Okay. Golf, we've already talked about, but anything else to add, Bill, Stephen? Okay. Joel, anything happening in the cemetery world?
There are a lot of things happening in the cemetery world, and before I start, if anybody would like to purchase Girl Scout cookies, you can come see me. Cemeteries, we're going over Section 34, so we've been digging through the Iowa Code Section 34. Basically, it talks about what the public can do on the grounds. In addition to that, we met February 6th, and we also talked about the CIP projects for 2019. We're going to do something called Wreaths Across America for this next coming year. We've nominated new committee members, and we discussed our volunteer projects, including the Woodland Memorial Project. And our next meeting will be March 6th at 4 o'clock.
On Trails and Greenways, when we earlier were appointing, or voting to appoint Lauren and Walter. I wasn't trying to take anything away, but we haven't had a meeting with Jim and Sarah, so that's why I was bringing everyone up to speed on that. But anything regarding trails and greenways, Sarah?
My first meeting was canceled due to weather, so I have not yet attended one.
Can you report on that anyway?
I think I was home and had dinner instead.
Jim, everything okay on that?
Everything's fine.
Okay, with that being said, my goodness, doesn't it seem wonderful to get out at a reasonable hour? Anything, does anyone have anything else to add? Okay.
Move to adjourn?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Meeting
Who's the
is
last no vote?